Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the Crimson Order Tower in Leonia, Galena, it's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 160. Remember that number. It's April 21st, and I'm your host, Bill Costello. With me today,
all the way in from the depths of the courthouses in Los Lunas, New Mexico, is Joshua Alt.
And
hey, my name is Vic.
Yes, we finally did it. We finally got Vic to be on the show. We're so happy. We're so proud. We're so excited. I feel like one of the NASA wives. Jesus. Okay.
You look like one of the NASA wives.
Whoa. I don't know if I'm excited or happy. Okay, anyway, you're killing me. Killing me. So yeah, after we talk to Vic, or maybe before that, we're going to cover, a little bit of stuff about maybe girls in 40K. It should be funny. We're going to talk about, the upcoming, the news feeds that we've had for AoS 4.0, because it sounds like they've really hit a good mix, but we'll have to see. So I do want to say I just turned 60, which is odd because this is show 160. And, because
there's one 60-year-old man on the show.
Yeah, exactly. Just one. And it was funny. I was at the store, the Warhammer store. The store manager and a couple of the patrons there were giving me some crap about, being 60 and playing with toys and all this stuff. And this other older gentleman walked in, and he was definitely my age. They were giving me crap, and he was looking like, And you could see he was getting a little perturbed. Mm-hmm. But I think he understood that there was, a relationship there. I started talking about building the virtual tabletop, which we'll get into here later. He looks around and he goes, "That's cool. That's something a 40-year-old wouldn't do." And I was just like, the whole place just died laughing. And I was like, yeah, us geezers know what the hell we're doing. So anyway, let's move on. You know what came out?
What came out, Bill?
Nightmare for Kill Team.
That box is massive.
It's here. Yeah, it's such a cool box. I mean, the mandrakes are... I watched the video from Can You Roll a Crit? Mm-hmm. And the mandrakes are just off the hook in Kill Team. They're nuts. They're absolutely nuts. And then you have the what's his name? The other guys in the box. Wow, he must be like old. He can't remember nothing.
Well, once you hit 60,
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a crazy cool box. It's like, oh man, I am so pumped.
Yeah, the mandrakes, the new sculpts look amazing, and like the old sculpts too were really good. But the way they've been re-envisioning stuff in plastic has been amazing. And once that comes in a singular box, I didn't want to buy Nightmare. I just want to get the mandrakes. So that's one of those kill teams I will play. Yeah, I hear you. So White Dwarf $4.99 dropped. So man, this is so obviously next month is White Dwarf 500. And 1,500. I remember distinctly buying White Dwarf number 100 and thinking to myself, well, that's cool. They put out 100 issues. I honestly, I guarantee you they won't live to see 200 because this shop's not gonna, this Games Workshop thing's not gonna last. Okay, so next up, I watched a video the other day, and it's an older one from Vince Ventrella about the Game Envy Lucent Light. And I remember that Ninjon had done a show on a light. And I figure if two guys like Ninjon and Vince do a show about a light, it might be pretty good. Mm-hmm. And god dang, it is. I went ahead and ordered one. Yeah. And I am super impressed with that. It is just such a bright light and almost like infinitely adjustable to whatever and wherever you're working. Ooh, highly recommended, folks. If you didn't buy it because Vince said to do it, and you didn't buy it because Ninjon said to do it, do it because I did. Hey, I think you got more clout because you are the everyman of hobby gaming. You're not the elite painters.
That's right. I'm the crappy painter that just likes a lot of light.
And believe me, folks, he does. If you could see how this room is lit up most of the time.
I know. I forgot to turn off.
Sometimes I ask him to turn off some lights because I might get a headache from it. It's
Yeah, the amount of light I have in here is not good for migraines. So, yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So what also came out this week that was of great interest, for me at least, was the Legions Imperialis, the whole wave of drop pods, the Arbus lighters, the Basilisk and Medusa kit, the Proteus Land Raiders. So much stuff came out for Legions Imperialis, and I'm just like, oh, this is so cool.
Yeah, talk about probably the biggest GW release that's gotten you so giddy, Bill. Like, you were a little hesitant at first. Remember when you go back to some episodes, you're like, but as soon as you started getting into it, started playing it, it just like has leaps and bounds ahead of some of the other game systems they've released. So
It is. It's so much fun. It's so tactical, and you're playing battles, not skirmishes. You know, even at 40K game size, you're talking about the extreme far right flank of a campaign that's been going on, and even at the company level, it's of little impact in the whole scheme of things. Whereas with Legions Imperialis, I can see someone very soon is going to be doing the Siege of Terra, and I cannot wait to see it.
Especially when they build the freaking terrain for it.
Oh, just the front gate.
Yeah.
You know, just that one scene would be like Cabanda, and oh God. And somebody's going to have to, of course, kit bash a Sanguinius.
A tiny Sanguinius, and then God, what are they going to do for when Fulgrim gets on there and Dorn has to fight him? You know,
it's going to be nuts. You know, I've seen some people that have kit bashed Primarchs.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, you're sick.
At that scale,
wrong with you. You're awesome, but you're sick.
Yeah, I mean, like what? They'd be roughly the size of like the little dreadnoughts, right?
If
maybe
that,
a little smaller.
Yeah,
depending on the
smaller
Primarch.
Yeah, it would depend on who, but yeah, it's just, oh Lord, I just, more power to them. They did such great stuff, and I can't wait to see that diorama, that display that's going to go up. Oh man, it's going to be fun. So, I don't know if this is a new release or what, but Reaper has put out, if you're into D&D and all that good stuff, they have put out a Baba Yaga's hut, which is this great, D&D scale miniature, basically hut.
Yeah.
Which has the chicken legs and, the nice people hanging from the bottom of it. Well, what makes it so cool is the legs are removable, of course. Mm-hmm. So you can use it in a D&D or, a game, Sigmar, what have you, as just a hut, a house, somewhere in the middle of the woods or the middle of your board. And then when you want it for your D&D game, because Baba Yaga's hut is cool, you just throw the legs on there and you're done. You're good to go. So I had to pick that up. That was just too cool.
Yeah, Bill's got it right behind him right now. I can see it in the box, and it is a fantastic piece of terrain, or like you'd use for D&D. It just looks amazing.
Yep.
Quality.
I'm slamming it all around the place. Yeah, it looks really cool, and it looks to be a good scale for Sigmar games and what have you. It'll be a nice big house that will block line of sight.
It looks like it'd be fun to paint too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got pretty good texture on it, pretty good detail. Yeah, I'm really liking that.
It's a Reaper Bones Black series, so it's one of their high-end series. So they're very nice. They're very nice, and it wasn't that expensive. I think it was like $60.
That's it for that piece?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well, it's Reaper. They don't gouge as much. It's made out of that soft plastic, so it's going to hold up. You cannot worry about it, but the detail is just gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, one of my things I like so much about it's not on the sprue. It's just the pieces just ready to be assembled as you see fit, particularly like what hangs from the bottom. It's just ready to go, and that's
throw the primer on it and get to painting.
Yeah.
So it's just gorgeous. And like I said, it makes for great AoS. It's themed right along the same as a lot of the AoS older terrain, the towers and the lake buildings, and that we always use from the Lord of the Rings side. So yeah, it'll work. Something for you to think about. And if you're seriously into the RPG stuff, probably shouldn't have it in this section of the show, but Steamforged Games has put out this thing called the Local Legends Tavern Kit. for any role-playing game. It doesn't have to be D&D.
Yeah.
But literally, it's a set of 10 taverns ranging in size, and it's inside the box is all these cards for the NPCs that are in the different inns, as well as there's maps for each one of the taverns, and then area maps that show where the tavern's located, sort of battle mat style. Really super cool. And then it's got 3 or 4 books in there about each inn, and then mini games that can be played at the different inns. Like, they'll all have their version of tavern games. So just this great way to fill out your campaign and flesh out stuff for your campaign. Really cool box. Really cheap too. I mean, I think it was like $30. So if you're having problems generating taverns, here you go.
I mean, that's just central to so much role playing, I mean, so many one-shots or simple campaigns start in a tavern. They're going to end in it. You're going to wind up in a tavern at some point.
You meet in a tavern.
Yeah.
Well, you wrap up in a tavern.
Right? I need to sleep for the night. Well, there's a local tavern that has some rooms available.
Exactly. So, yeah, it really is central, and it makes it so easy, and it's just one less thing you have to think about. So, neat little product.
Definitely.
So, moving on to things, you want to do what you've been working on?
Yeah, all of 1 unit of Rajucar, which, given the amount of work I've put in the last 2 weeks with the trial docket that ended up going nowhere, got some pretty favorable results as a prosecutor on some cases. And then this week I had a sentencing on a homicide and a full afternoon with preliminary examinations, bench trials, and the next day I was in grand jury presentations for the entire day.
Jesus.
So I have been wrecked. I mean, my back still hurts.
Can imagine.
So I have not had much energy to do that much. But what I can say about the Rajukur, they're not going to be too easy overtly to pose differently than they are, because they are very much assemble as they are.
Yeah.
There's some weapon options, but they're just straightforward troops. And that's one of the things that's why I was able to do it, because it wasn't like the ghouls when you built them. God, those things were a pain in the butt. I did finish my unit of ghouls because I know I wasn't finished last week.
Nice.
But, because the ghouls are rather interesting, because they look like these emaciated old, like Middle Eastern men.
Yeah.
But they're elementals, right?
Oh boy.
And so each one of them, at least one of their hands will have like fire, or what looks like fire in it, right? Super beautiful sculpts. And the leader has this really interesting body where like there's a hollow in the middle of his body.
Oh man.
And it's got like flames licking up it. So it's this really like next level sculpting. But some of the heads are 2 pieces. Like some of the arms are 2 to 3 pieces.
Oh,
and I was like, oh my God, I can't with this. But the Rajukur, I mean, it's pretty much like 2 halves of the body, 2 halves of the head, arm, shield, and the arm that has the weapon already has it on there sometimes. So it's very clean and very easy to put together. So it was kind of therapeutic for me given everything that's going on. I tried to get to painting this week because I want to try and start doing 30 minutes a day, no matter what, right? Just 30 minutes, put in the paint.
Yeah, I hear you.
But I just haven't quite gotten there. So my creation was very limited the last couple of weeks due to work.
I can imagine. Sounds like it was a nightmare. Oh, I don't know. Don't envy you at all with your job.
No one should envy a lawyer. No one should be a lawyer. So if you're thinking about becoming a lawyer, don't do it. Go do something else.
Remember, you got your hint here first.
I'll tell you one story about that just real quick.
Sure.
I can't remember who's telling me, but they just met up with this neuropsychiatrist, not for therapy or anything, but just kind of meeting the person.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Oh, I used to be a lawyer. He used to be corporate, like New York lawyer, right? Who was at the top of things. And after so many years and the stress of it, like he went so far downhill, lost his job, heroin addict.
Oh,
right.
Jeez.
He finally was able to like clean up his act, went to rehab, then went back to school and became a neuropsych, right? And
because that's easy. Wow.
He says, like, for your health, right? Being a lawyer is the worst job you could possibly do, right? And I can tell you it's true. I mean, there's so much in burnout that goes with, being a lawyer. so much addiction starts popping up because you have no way to really handle the stress. I mean, even those of us who work out on a regular basis, there's some days where you're just like, I just had to deal with a dead baby.
Yeah.
I want a stiff drink.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And sometimes it becomes more than just a stiff drink. You
Yeah.
know? So if you want to be a lawyer, don't be, unless you want to have this horrific life that I lead. But it does pay for miniatures, so I guess there's that.
Yeah, there's that. There is that. But at what cost? Okay. So now I feel bad because over the last 2 weeks, I have, talk about this a lot more in After Dark, but I built a virtual tabletop. I got a 40-inch TV, a dumb TV, which is important because I didn't want a TV that was constantly going to go looking for wireless signals and what have you.
Yeah.
So, and then built, little box to go around it, a nice little wooden box to go around it, and stuck the cables outside and started figuring out how to actually display stuff with OBS on that display and make it really just awesome for battle maps and area maps, as well as when you're not in combat, you can throw, just mood setting images up there, or if somebody needs to see a rule passage, you can put it up in really big print so that nobody forgets. So really super handy box to have. Really enjoyed putting that thing together, making it, just having fun. But it's one of those things that it took successively like 4 nights to build, because you build the box the first night and then you got to sand it and let it sit, put the conditioner on it. You need to let it wait till the next day, then the first coat of stain, sand it, stain it the next day. It's a lot of downtime, little work, but a lot of downtime
For sure.
But it's up now and it's fun to have. So, and then honestly, last night I got this just urge to start building the 100 Kingdoms, because I was looking at putting together a 2K list for the Nords. And I knocked out the list and I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to take. This is going to be a fun game. And I was like, I don't like playing Nords. I don't like the way I don't like their play style. It has nothing to do. I mean, they just won Adepticon. They are strong. I don't enjoy their play style. And the more videos I saw about 100 Kingdoms, the more I was like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. So, so I just all of a sudden decided to start. I built the Priory Commander, and I started working on 2 units of the Order of the Crimson Tower. And the list I have in mind is going to be heavy infantry focused. So building the horses and the cavalry is a lot of fun. I'm not looking forward to building all the militia crossbowmen and the militia and all the smaller units, but it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a neat army to play. And, I have my Nords to play while I'm getting this one together. So
the one thing I really like about 100 Kingdoms is, and I think this is where 2 of the factions I picked, Spires and Sorcerer Kings, suffer from, is that I'm not going to say that they're linear, right? But you're not trying to play all these crazy little mini games on the side.
yes.
You have much more straightforward abilities and things like that allows you to play more tactically than like what I'm trying to do with Spires, which is like, I'm trying to set up all these different
They are
miniature things to pop off, or like with Sorcerer Kings, which is, and After Dark, I'm going to talk a lot about the changes that they had.
Yes.
But like,
oh my God.
the new, the ritual minigame now is intense.
They made that a lot harder.
Oh yeah. But I can see why, because like the rate at which you can get these out now might be faster, and I'll get into that later. But like having to, all right, so when do I trigger this ritual, to start, practicing, right? But do I trigger this one next? And with the change to the Maharaja, blah blah blah, right? So you have all these little mini games, but what 100 Kingdoms does so well is that, like, as you've now been researching, like with the theist priests, how like his buffs are just so good.
Yeah.
And because you have so much more straightforward options, not all this mini game play, you can really work your angles and really work your board presence.
Yes.
And how you work tactically like that, as opposed to, I'm playing a card game on the side, or like with Old Dominion, right? Where I'm like, okay, so I need to like strategically sacrifice so many units so I can get so many dark power pool.
Yep.
And then at this point, that's when I get these units on the board. I mean, I like that gameplay. That's my gameplay.
Sure.
But like 100 Kingdoms looks so refreshing.
They are so straightforward. They're the stock standard humans in the world. They don't have any monsters. They don't have any brutes. It's literally just people doing. And one of the crazy parts about the 100 Kingdoms versus any other faction is their units are dedicated to what they do. Mm-hmm. If it says militia crossbowmen or mercenary crossbowmen, they shoot crossbows and they do it really well. And that's all they do well. Yes. They do nothing else well. If it's the Order of the Ashen Dawn, they are hard-hitting cavalry that will, like the one guy said, they will bring the apocalypse for 240 points. Mm-hmm. And, they don't do anything else. And, even inside the Nords, you have many, many units that are capable of performing 2 or 3 roles on the battlefield.
Yep.
And keeping them in the right places or getting them to the right places can make or break a game.
Yep.
Even, just the Volva and some Valkyries, you put them in the wrong spot and you can't you will not recover from that in an average game.
Correct.
Because you just don't have the movement and the battlefield is going to be choked up after a while. You just won't get where you need to go. Whereas 100 Kingdoms, if you need to be on the other side of the board real quick, you detach your cavalry and you go.
Yes.
And you just hope you didn't leave your infantry to a fate worse than death. But yeah, it's a kind of their whole thing for these guys, for the 100 Kingdoms, that makes them able to play the same game as everyone else is they can use 2 supremacy. They can use 2 warlords.
Yep.
So basically they have double the amount of cool stuff as everyone else. So yeah, they're very, very fun. And I'm looking forward to playing around with different lists. And, I hate to say it, but I have this image of they're Bretonians, but better Bretonians.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I don't think they're not bringing guns yet.
No, not at all.
Or cannons or anything of that sort. But
magic, yes. Gunpowder, no.
Yeah, but they have some of the scariest cavalry in the game.
Oh dear God. Yes.
They're almost up there with the Cataphractoi out of Old Dominion. Because if you haven't played with them, at least watch some games with them. Mm-hmm. And when those Order of the Ashen Dawn crash into a unit, it's gone. It's
obliterated.
Yeah. Oh, you just deleted a whole unit of bone golems in one run. Oh my God.
And a buffed unit of Crimson Order, a buffed unit of Sealed Temple they will do what it is they're supposed to do on the battlefield amazingly well. And they will delete some things. Now, when they get charged, they evaporate, which, if they didn't, it wouldn't be a fun game. They'd just win everything. So it's just a question of knowing when to commit and where to commit it's huge. I love Conquest for that. Just the give and take mentality in the game is just so amazing, and screening is so obviously useful, and how to do it is so crazy useful, and watching your opponent pray to God that they don't kill the last guy on the last stand.
Yeah. So
that they don't get faced with a charge. It's hilarious. It's truly funny. In the last game I had my Raiders, they did it. They screened out the Valkyries absolutely perfectly. They went up, they interposed themselves between the people that wanted to charge and just destroy the Valkyries in one turn, which would have happened. And they died to a man. They died to the last guy on the last stand, which was just enough to break his charge. He could not get a way of charging me, so that when it was my turn, it was, okay, I can charge through my guys. Here they come. And I deleted his unit instead of him deleting mine. So it was just perfect. And when that happens, you just feel like, I did a good thing. This is so cool.
I'm the best general ever.
Yeah, for, the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, and that's one thing the Nords do so well is, they know what their screens are, and they know what their hard-hitting stuff is. And, that's why I'm painting the trolls right now. And that's, something else I was going to talk about. The other thing I did is I started finishing up my first trolls unit, because got to have those trolls. They're so good. That regenerates 6.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely disheartening for enemies. I just killed them to a. What do you mean you have a whole stand back, a whole healthy stand back? Yeah, that's what I regenerate. You have to kill me in one go. Don't not do that.
Yeah, some of the tricks the spires have when you're playing the what is it, under spires? I mean, just wave after wave of, and sometimes they can hit hard, but mostly trash troops.
Sure.
You know, that you get regen. God, I can't remember how you can get it. It's absurd, but it gets like regen 6 at a certain point.
Yeah.
But then you also explode them too.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh yeah, though they suicide into you, they explode, but now they're back because you didn't kill them all to a man. That, like, fighting against regen is a SOB.
Well, and you really have to plan, if you're going to engage something that has that kind of regeneration, you have to maneuver yourself into ways that you're going to get flanking and you're going to be able to pick off the very last. You know, if you get charged by trolls toward the end of the command stack, it's going to be painful for 2 rounds because this is another game where you set your turn order before you know even who's going first. And if you can get a back-to-back with trolls, it can be ugly. If you get to go at the bottom of one round and the top of the next, it can be devastating. So, but yeah, I mean, that's where the fun of Conquest lies. To me, the best part of that game is the command stack.
Oh, yeah.
Is you set up your units and how they're going to go. And that success or failure is going to depend a lot on that choice. And learning to make those choices is the hardest thing. So
it's where if you played like competitive card gaming before, right, that it could really help you with that. I think. Yeah. Because you always look for the sequences of activation, combos, what have you, and being able to set it up, you know. But then also the fun of it too is that your opponent's doing the same thing. And so you could have this like, all right, here's my strategy for the next round. But then one thing the opponent does, right? They just take out a key unit. Yes. And then, oh my goodness, everything starts falling.
Your house of cards falls apart.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's funny because one of the things that keeps city-states alive in the game is their ability to manipulate that deck during play.
Yep.
And that is such a strong ability. Oh, it's just, if, you know, when they finish tweaking their units to make them just right, you know, and it's, God, the guys at Parabellum are just, they have to be spending every day thinking about this stuff because the fixes they make are always very elegant and smart. But there are some things, you know, like city-states, I would have to say right now is the bottom. They're the bottom of the middle tier. And I don't think there's no lower tier in the game. Everybody is either A tier or B tier, and they're at the bottom of B tier. They struggle against a lot of factions. And once they figure out how they're going to work that ability to just manipulate the deck is so crucially strong. They are so good. So good. Anyway, we're talking a lot about Conquest. So
I mean, it's not to get excited about a game that's so well balanced, right? That like you're not looking at a 45 to 55% for like, you know, where things are normally sitting. Like the window is so small and anything can win against anything if played the right way. It's rare you'll have the game where it's just like, I just cannot beat your army.
Right. It's one of those deals where they look at 49.5 and 50.5 is their window.
Yeah.
Where they accept, if you're out of that, they start making changes.
Yeah.
So, and the beauty of it is they've worked on, and it's different from the GW mentality where they balance faction versus faction. And then they look at internal balance of the different codexes. They're doing a really great job with 10th, 40K. Got to give them mad props because this is the first edition I've seen where they've really worked hard to make that entire book useful. And they're doing it, but Parabellum's always done that. They have internally balanced the factions first and then gone out. And that's kind of the problem for city-states right now is they've lost some of that internal balance. There's a very limited sort of warband that you put together that can survive competitive. Now for freeform casual play, oh dear God, take whatever you want. Any faction, it does not matter. You will have a fun game.
Yeah, again, I'll talk about Sorcerer Kings more in After Dark, so please stay tuned for that. But they did such a significant change, particularly to elementals.
Oh my God, yes.
That when you talk about freeform casual play, right? Like, I think they did a great job with that change for the elementals to allow even the casual players to sit down and enjoy an army.
You betcha.
Despite them being so complex.
And taking away the army-wide bloodlust was huge.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, that was such a pernicious thing. So, yep.
Yes, sir. So that
Anyway,
was...
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What else did you create, Bill, if anything?
Nothing. Like I said, I built the prior commander. I'm working on 2 Order of the Crimson Tower, and then I'm going to start doing some Ranger Corps and then some mercenary crossbowmen and some militias and, stuff to bring with the other leaders. So one thing that you will always see with 100 Kingdoms is they will almost always out-activate any other force, because for them to have 10, 12 cards is not uncommon at all. They are definitely an MSU army.
Yeah, dirt cheap units.
Yeah.
That are all effective in their roles.
Yeah.
I mean, almost all the infantry will just turn to paper once you like crash into them.
Yep.
But I mean, like their crossbowmen are like with built-in AP.
Yeah, that's crazy.
At their range, at their point cost, is absurd, right? Like, if there's anything that's criminally undercosted in the game, it is
mercenary crossbowmen.
But again, if you're tactical enough about it, you can screen just right so you can get to them and they're gone.
Yes.
Like gone. They are not.
No.
They are not meant to be fighting in melee combat.
They are not hanging out on the table long.
No.
But by God, if you don't get to them, they will obliterate you.
Yeah. Just like the Vanguard clones, right?
Yeah.
God, their shooting is stupid. I mean, they're kind of like the answer to mercenary crossbowmen because they're almost as dirt cheap and they're faster. But those are 2 units in the game that if you do not handle them, they will handle you.
Yes. And that's the whole point, is they're so dirt cheap that trading against that unit is almost always a bad trade, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
You almost have to do it. And it's crazy. Going up against the Dwegholm with their crossbowmen is I have to throw away a unit of werewolves, knowing full well that I am going to lose 200 points in this trade, but I have to do it. I have to get there in one turn and obliterate them so that they don't take out the rest of my army.
Yep.
And yes, I have to make that horrible trade, but damn the bad luck. This is why we play the games.
Yep.
Speaking of playing games, I didn't get much in. Did you?
I have played 0 miniature games over the last 2 weeks, as previously spoken about. I have been inundated. What I have done is played a lot of Marvel Strike Force. So yes, Chuck, Soul Chuckles, you're going to hear a lot in After Dark about my boy Nightcrawler and a lot of others that I've been working on. And certainly, definitely more After Dark content. But I did finally break and picked up Mortal Kombat 1. I'll talk to you all about my love of fighting games in After Dark. But miniature-wise, no. But I'm hoping in the coming weeks I'll be able to get some in.
The only fighting game I've ever played was Dead or Alive.
Yeah.
And mostly the beach volleyball. Because I'm a dirty old man. Oh, God.
Oh, I got some dirty old man stuff for you then on Dead or Alive 2 and After Dark that we're going to talk about.
I just, the thing is that was Dead or Alive was the first game I picked up on, I think it was either the PS4, might have been the 360, I don't know, whatever game system it was on. And I just picked it up because it looked goofy. And I started playing it and just started going through the different characters. And I was like, wow, some of these are really dumb.
Yeah.
They're really bad. And others were just like, oh, this one button trigger just does everything. And then you start finding some of the other characters like, Chrissy that was she was I forgot the name of the style, but it was just so much fun. It was crazy. And the combos were off the hook. And I just really started liking that game. And then I saw that beach volleyball and I'm like, am I in the wrong game? Is this weird or what? So I picked that up and I was like, oh, this is just a way to test jiggle physics for the other games. And you're selling it. And it's selling huge. Well done.
Yeah, Dead or Alive historically sells pretty well.
Yeah, for jiggle physics because it works.
I'll just say it now. Like Dead or Alive 2 is I think it was the first and only one I ever played of Dead or Alive. Even though I love fighting games, but literally the jiggle physics depended on the age you set.
Yes.
And so if you set it to 99, it was absurd.
Yes.
So I remember being a teenage boy
Yeah.
and being like, let's go ahead and max that out 99 years old and let's play the game.
Yes. Yes.
This game's so much better than Tekken or Street Fighter.
Yeah. Totally. Oh, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It has its place.
It does.
So I got no AoS or 40K games in. I did get 2 Shatterpoint games in over at Go Figure, Slice and Dice Pizzeria.
What?
Yeah. It was kind of fun because I had put together 2 different teams, and they were basic teams. They weren't, anything crazy, no weird mixtures.
Mm-hmm.
I got there, and the guy I was playing against is off the hook Shatterpoint.
Yeah.
He is crazy into it.
That's his game?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely loves it. And it was really fun because it showed. And he was able to show me a lot of things that I hadn't thought about before in how to use some of the units and some of the abilities on the cards that I hadn't really put together that combo yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in typical awesome, this guy knows how to bring gamers into the community, I won the first game. Now, before I go on to it, I do want to shout out his terrain. The stuff that he had built was gorgeous. The amount of effort that he put into building the terrain was off the hook. It was just so much fun to play on that board with his terrain. So much fun. And then, he proceeds, and I told him, the only person I've played this game against regularly is my wife.
Yeah.
And, I cannot call myself anything near efficient with the game. So literally made the first game sort of a teaching game.
Yeah.
And let me win, because that's what you do if you want to bring people in. You don't club the baby seal. And then we proceeded to play a real game. And the thing that I've always loved about Shatterpoint is it was close. He handily handed me my butt in the first action. And then when it flipped, it just fell right into my hands, and I was able to win the second relatively easily, especially because I was able to do a lot of damage to some of his operatives.
Yeah.
And then when we get to the third one, which is where, the crux of the game should be decided, it was nip and tuck. It was crazy good. And I think, honestly, a couple of better rolls on mine. I did not go the full track on Obi-Wan one time, and I think that really cost me the game because I was going up against what's his name, Maul. Darth Maul.
Okay.
And I should have been able to push him off the edge and down away from the objective, but I just didn't run my whole table on Obi-Wan, and I came up one short, literally one die short from actually being able to push him. And if I'd have pushed him, dear God, he would have had to have wasted an action to get up to me. And instead he didn't. He was able to just beat me to death. So, but it was such a fun game. And, I truly love a game that comes down to the last die roll on the last character activation. And this is it. It's either going to win or lose. And it was like, awesome. So yeah, it was a fun couple of games.
Those are those moments in gaming that I always go for too. I don't like the pure calculated victory. Sometimes I do that, but I get bored with that. I want big moments, and you just had that big moment right there.
Yeah,
It was
so cinematic. Oh my God, this captures the feel. Yeah, it was really good for that. And other than that, the only gaming I've been doing is Jaws of the Lion with the wife. We started a new campaign of Jaws of the Lion just for fun, just to start getting ready for Gloomhaven when it arrives. So, did do a BattleTech refresher game setup that was a little weird. It was set up to bring new players in.
Yeah.
Some new people along. And so I was one of the ringers, and it was weird because the guy put it together with this, like, okay, we're going to start introducing rules as we go. And I thought it meant as we played the different games.
Not in the same game.
Yeah, no, this was turn by turn adding rules. And I was like, okay, I can't do what on turn one? Oh, that's silly. Okay. No, that's fine. It worked. It worked, but it was janky. So it's not the way I would teach new people to play.
Yeah, it's a little rough, but since you haven't made your second account on the Discord yet, Bill, I just want you to know that You are sucking some folks into BattleTech now.
Good.
You are bringing them in. And, you know, I mean, for all intents and purposes, I played one game of BattleTech, and I grasped it that quickly and that easily. So it's definitely a quality game. It's crazy to think how long it's been around.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? Sort of flying under the radar, and then, you know, in the last, 2-3 years exploded again.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And
once Catalyst really hit their stride with the game, it's just been off the hook.
talk about a game that's so easy to like just get models on board, because wait, aren't they all pre-built?
Yeah, they're all pre-built.
Yeah. And if you want to paint them, cool. If not, you can literally crack the box, put them on the table.
Throw them on the table. And if you're playing Alpha Strike, literally everything you need is in the box.
Yep.
Yeah, cards are right there, and you just go to town. It's fun. To me, what BattleTech is so nice about BattleTech is you can play the super simple Alpha Strike, you can play the advanced Alpha Strike, or you can jump into full-scale BattleTech and take on all the paperwork that's entailed. And if you like crunchy games, my God, you're going to have a blast.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And, you know, this is a game where units don't die, and it takes a long time to kill a unit. So when you get that critical headshot, you're like, oh my God, oh, I am so going to win this. Oh, it's fun.
But, you know, on average, you're not going to like destroy something in like one volley. But like when you see it happen where it's just like the weakest gun somehow crits the cockpit and all that stuff, you're just like, what just happened? Like, that was like one shot and he's gone. Like, oh my God. It's so cool to see that happen. And again, that's that dynamic there, because on average, it's going to be this, right?
Yes.
But the dice will allow you to have those heroic moments,
Those crazy moments when my Phoenix Hawk takes a low percentage shot at an Atlas that he has no business shooting at and manages to get a crit headshot and destroys 100 tons of literally 1/4 of the other guy's force.
Yep.
Is gone in one die roll. And yeah, that just set the tone for the entire game. And, you know, that was a narrative game. So he played in reaction to losing the Atlas and not wanting to lose the carcass because it had almost no damage. So if I had been able to capture that wreckage, that would have just been a huge boon to my ongoing, as I was able to, for a few million C-bills, put an Atlas on the table, which would have been just nuts for the other guys to have to deal with. And, oh, yeah, that would have been a big swing in the campaign. So he had to basically change from I want to win this scenario to I simply want to keep it to where you can't get this wreckage.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. So much fun. Anyway, let's take a quick break and then we'll jump into the rest of our lore. So obviously for part of lore, we're going to have an interview with Vic from over at Slice and Dice, but then we're going to talk about AoS 4 and girls in 40K. It's going to be fun. Neckbeards, get ready.
And now for something completely different.
And now, as we promised at the outset of the show, we actually have a guest today. It's awesome. We have Vic from Slice and Dice Games, Pizza and Games. You might tell from the name Slice and Dice might entail two different kinds of things, but I'm going to turn it over to Vic. Vic, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, Slice and Dice Pizzeria, been going strong for about 6 years now. As you say, the Slice and Dice is a trick to get non-gamers in. It seems like a normal pizzeria, and then we trap them with the dice portion of the store. But
one-way doors, one-way mirrors.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so for myself, been in New Mexico my whole life. For my gaming history, I really didn't get into gaming until later in my life. I played a lot of Risk and Monopoly with my family growing up. Went to college down in Socorro, New Mexico Tech, shout out. Did some chemical engineering down there. After graduating from college was when I really got into gaming down in Roswell, New Mexico, working at a cheese plant manufacturing plant. Yes, Roswell, New Mexico
I was going to say... Aliens,
cows. You got the connection there. They are the second largest cheese manufacturer in the country, actually.
Wow.
But in New Mexico, small towns equal nothing to do. Thus, the gaming aspect of my life really grew into part of my lifestyle and really diving into the board games and yeah, loving that.
So I got to ask you, what is it like to go from chemical engineer to pizzeria / game store owner? I mean, it's not like those two flow together. It's not like, oh, as a librarian, then I became a literary. No, this is weird.
You would be surprised how much you can use from that past life of mine, I guess. The restaurateur in me was actually from my younger days. So my family has been in the restaurant business for my whole life. So grew up in a cafe in the back. My sister was in a crib, and I was in the back hanging out while my mom and dad were running their cafe. So I've been kind of in it my whole life. They currently also own a pizzeria in Grants, New Mexico. More traditional style, obviously no games or anything, but same awesome recipes. And so me and my wife, Mercedes, who are the owners of Slice and Dice, both engineers, so both chemical engineers, by both schooling and trade, a lot of manufacturing history, are able to kind of bring that into the store and really create a process-driven kitchen and process-driven, even the game. So both the restaurant side and the game store side are able to really run smoothly because we're using those process-driven methods to run the store effectively.
Cool. I like it. That's awesome.
It totally makes sense how they tie together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's, I think there's so many moving parts in both of those businesses that you have to be able to sync them up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So remember, kids, get an education. So I gotta, next thing I gotta know is there has to be. I read stories about how the two worst businesses to get into in the country is restaurants and game stores. What are the challenges of trying to mush both of them together and be as successful as you guys are?
I think the rumors are true on both of those. So, so we decided to pull the two of the hardest businesses to run, with the lowest margins and the hardest turnovers and like all this things, and decided to do both of them. And I think the big challenge is that we have two separate businesses that we're running. Mm-hmm. Although the connection is so awesome when you're in the store, as far as a business perspective, there is no connection.
Yeah.
You run them separately. And so we are running two businesses. So one of the biggest challenges is that you're running two businesses, really. Another challenge is really, we live in a world now that you can't just open a small game shop and kind of be successful like you can, like in the olden days, I guess. And the same with restaurants too. A lot of my history and my memories are in these small mom and shop restaurants, and it's getting harder and harder for those to survive, whether it's because of the large corporate chains coming in or whatever the reason. And marketing and all of that stuff is a need for businesses to be successful now. And a lot of the mom and pops, they're run with mom and pop, and that's it. And there's no, and so I think the challenge for us is really putting our resources to try to create a successful store, but also having to do the marketing and having to get people to know we exist so that we can be successful and create an awesome space. But those would be kind of two of the biggest challenges for us.
Yeah, I would imagine that can't be easy.
No, not at all. But one thing that's interesting, because I know you get a lot of folks in, right, who aren't gamers, right?
Absolutely.
Or aren't in it. So what do you do? And Bill and I have talked about it before, but what do you do to introduce the non-gamer clientele to the games?
So I would say actually the majority of our customers are non-gamers. And so we really strive in creating a good food product and a good pizza recipe to be able to have that clientele come into us and have those guests come in. The gaming part is the fun part to me. So getting someone to come in, they've heard about the pizza, they want to try the pizza, and they come in, and then that's kind of when you introduce them to the gaming side. A lot of times that's just taking an Uno deck over to their table and letting them enjoy Uno, because you know they know Uno, and it's not scary for them.
Yeah.
And so, but it's been really cool so we are 6-year anniversary will be in August.
Awesome.
And so it's been really, really cool to see families that started playing Uno 6 years ago and are now playing like really complex worker placement games and getting into the real deep board game side of things. And some of them are leaning over into kind of our other categories, being obviously miniatures, but also like role playing plays a big part in our store.
Sure.
So it's very cool to see that growth over the time. But I think one of our goals as a store and as a hobby hub is that if families want to come in and play Uno for 6 years, I have some that also do that, and I don't think there's any shame in that or any. So it's awesome because we have both. We have families that come in and they literally have played Jenga for 6 years of coming and enjoying Slicin Dice, and it's awesome. And we've been able to introduce other people into more deep, complex games, and it's cool to see both of those happening in the store at the same time.
Nice.
Oh, for sure.
Now, I want to go off script real quick because I want to talk about, well, two things. You talk about awesome pizza. You've been like, this is just a plug, but you've been voted like best pizza, one of the top 5 pizza joints in Albuquerque several times now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good. Go there, people. I mean, unless you're in Iceland, don't try. But you could.
Make a trip during Balloon Fiesta.
There you go. Balloon Fiesta, come on down.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you determine what you're going to put on your library of free-to-play games?
So that is a big mix of things. So it's one of the key factors is the hotness, right? Gamers love the hotness. So the new games coming in, we want to make sure we have a demo on the library so people can try out the new thing. If they like it, then they're buying a new copy. The other big factor is our game guides. So we hire game guides. Their job is to teach games, recommend games to people. That's really how we're introducing the hobby. And so each of our game guides has a list of different categories. So 2-player games, family games, party games, children's games that they're required to, or not required, but they bring to us games that they love in each of those categories so that they can teach. So it's kind of a mix of making sure the library is filled with content that is new and kind of exciting and talk about things that people are talking about, and then also stuff that people love. Some of our most taught games are older games, and people are still loving. There are still great designs and great stuff that have coming out new, but also stuff that's in the past. And
yeah, I would have to imagine you have Wormspan on the shelf.
Wormspan is absolutely on the shelf.
That is such a fun game. We went there, we bought our copy from you, and came home and played it that night. Nice. We were like, we watched the video real quick, played it. Oh my God, it's a blast.
That is definitely the talk of the board game world currently.
Yeah, so. I would say. But yeah, it to me, it's got to be like, I know I would stumble because I would want to put all my favorite games on there, which would probably be a huge turnoff to 90% of the people. So in terms of that, now I really want to focus on the gaming retail side of things because I honestly don't know that much about the food portion. When it comes to starting a game store that's not a dedicated game store with nothing but space for games, how do you pick what lines you're going to carry?
It's a challenge for sure. We started the original Slicin Dice location with a relatively small retail section. So it was some of our favorite games from our library that we liked to support, and that grew. 2020 was a time we all don't like to talk about, but that allowed us to kind of grow our retail section because people couldn't come into store to play, so we were offering more games to play. So we really grew our board games because that's really where we, as a business model, we are a board game pizzeria, and so we have a board game library. It's easy for people to play those games, and so we kind of grew that board game section. And then as we grew as a retail store, our stock started to branch out, and we really branched out into the communities that were supporting us. So the big community that first ran some huge events for Slicin Dice was the indie RPG group. So we started bringing in a lot of indie RPGs in, and so they were getting played a lot in store. So then we were able to kind of support the product in the store. Fast forward that, and then we eventually had miniature gaming, miniature gamers coming in and playing. And so then we started to get into some of the, at that time, Marvel Crisis Protocol had come out. So that was a big game that kind of launched our miniature lines. But then also leaning into, again, with the growth of the indie RPG section, we also wanted to support kind of the more indie miniature games too. So we had a lot of, at that time, Frostgrave and all of Joseph's awesome stuff that he makes. He's really supported us too. So part of that growth in different companies too that brings up is the support of the publishers, I think, kind of really help, or the designers, and how they're willing to help the store too, whether that it's just getting on a phone call and talking with me on what we should bring, but I will say it's a very hard process to I mean, there's so much product that's coming out in all categories of the hobby, and
it's a crazy kind of golden age for, I mean, all phases of gaming right now. It's you can't swing a dead cat without seeing an amazing new hotness on Board Game Geek. And then you go through Kickstarter and you're like, oh my Lord, I want every one of them. And then, you look at GW, Atomic Mass, and Corvus Belly. They're all putting out just crazy versions and new. It's hard to keep up just visually, let alone financially. Good Lord. I don't know how you do it, but I do have to. You just went to Gamma.
Yes.
And when you were at Gamma, you sold your soul.
We might have, yes. Yes, absolutely.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but you did pick up the Games Workshop line.
Absolutely.
What was the motivation there, other than it might sell?
So, I mean, obviously, we're still a business, so yeah. So stuff that sells is still good. GW is still the top dog in the miniatures game. One thing that I think was a big factor for us was, again, the customers are really driving me to talk. I want to see what's getting played. I want to see what people are interested in. So we opened our second location 9 months ago now. So relatively new. We're still growing. We're still trying to figure out what's going on there. We started seeing people coming in and playing more GW stuff. And so, and like across the board of all of their games, we kind of started seeing. And so one of the reasons was obviously to try to support the community that was coming in and having pizza and giving them another place. Another thing was the locations of other stores. I think our original location was in proximity to another store that has the GW store here in town. And they did a great job of kind of supporting the community. And so we were able to really focus our original store on, like I said, that the role-playing community was really one. And a lot of the comments at our new store was, oh yeah, I want you guys to carry this. It's 30 minutes away, and 30 minutes in Albuquerque is an eternity, I think, for most people.
One thing, dear listener, you have to understand about Albuquerque is it's a great little city, but the problem is it's a little city, and we have this river that runs right through it called the Rio Grande, and it's not that grande, but there are only a handful of bridges across that river, and the Warhammer store is across that river. So when somebody says they don't want to drive a half hour to a Games Workshop store, trust me, they're not that crazy. It's a jaunt sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's for anything. I mean, it's weird that the city has those two sides, and our pizza business is the same. We have customers coming to us now. Oh, we saw your pizza was the number one family restaurant for pizza in Albuquerque, but we didn't want to drive across town, and so now they're able to try us out. And
nice.
so we were hearing from fans and from gamers coming into the shop that they really wanted to kind of see that growth with us, and they saw all the other miniature lines and paint lines and stuff that we had brought in, and it kind of was the next step for us.
So when did you start carrying GW specifically?
So we've only been carrying for 5 weeks now. So it's still like very, very new for us. I will say that our staff and our community is like on board, and they are excited for it. Since we've started carrying, we've seen that influx of even more people coming in and playing games. And then we've had staff that have always been GW fans and are now pumped. It might be because of the employee discount, but
yeah, it could
but they are also pumped to support the games and stuff, and run events for us and start doing that in the future.
That's great. You pull more people in from the community who otherwise might not go, right? If they're like GW fanatics, and now you're selling food.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're bringing their friends. So that's fantastic.
So it's funny you say that, because the one of the key factors I think of our place is that we can't allow anybody to play games. I think my table space is based on food sales and not based on the games getting played on those tables. And so I think you see that a lot in the gaming community, where it's like fill in the blank with whatever game controls these tables, because that's what we sell more of, and that's how we make our money. And for me, like, again, if you have a Dungeons and Dragons group coming in and playing, they're buying pizza. And if you have some kill team, 40K kill team players coming in and they're buying beer and food, it doesn't matter to us as a business. And so it really allows us to support like everybody in the hobby, and like we can still be successful as a business because I can sell anybody food and beer. So
yeah. Now, as just a personal, I just would like to know how you decided to carry the Conquest line, the Parabellum stuff, because I know you're the reason I got into that, and now I'm 3 armies in, and it's like, oh
Bill's
my
the reason
God.
I got into it. So.
Exactly. So,
absolutely, yeah. So Parabellum's one of the stories of the publishers that are, I think, doing great stuff out there to support their communities and support the game stores. They have really good programs, and I talk to someone from their team at least once a month to talk about how sales are going and talk about what we need as a store and how can they help us. And they've sent promotional materials. A lot of companies do that, but I think there's just a way that they care about their community and how they're growing that community. And I think that shows. And so it's really exciting to, obviously we're just always doing research on what's the next line that'll do good for us. And because we're always supporting kind of some smaller companies, we're all right with looking at those. And so that it just made a lot of sense once we started working with them, and we started slow, and we now carry the whole Conquest line, and it does great for the store, and it's a fun community to see grow here because it is still growing. So
I want that terrain set that's up for pre-order now. So get me some. I know I'm putting in my orders online. That live. That's really, wow. That's crass. Okay. Anyway, so one of the things that you always look for in a game store is the hobby and hobby tools and paints and all that stuff. How did you decide to I have to believe that carrying the Army Painter line has got to be super easy because, Christ, you see it in gas stations. I mean, it's everywhere. But how did you determine, the other paint ranges that you're going to do and the hobby tools and what of that sort of thing to bring in?
Yeah. So yeah, Army Painter is another great ones to work with, and you hear a lot of, and this goes for any line, any company. You hear stock issues or they can't get stock out enough. I've never really had that problem with Army Painter, but then you have hobbyists. So we brought that line actually in for D&D minis, and again that role playing community, and then that's what started our growth into the miniature sector. I guess is we started carrying paints, we started carrying the little D&D models, and then that led to, do you have miniature gaming? And that led to kind of some of our other growth. But as far as like the tools and stuff, I think that's one thing that a lot of game stores, I think, don't focus on. I think the gaming parts and the miniatures are stuff that a lot of people carry. And we want to kind of grow all aspects of that hobby. And so for us as a business, we looked at how can we bring in cooler products and cooler things that you can do with, whether it be a new paint line. Too Thin Coats has been a really popular one for us. And the hobby tools, I think you could say a lot of people won't buy them from the big groups because they can go to Hobby Lobby and maybe buy buy some stuff there, and we don't want that. And so what we're able to do is bring in multiple options, right? If I'm a new hobbyist, I can buy a reasonable price tools and kind of just the stuff you need to get started, and you can go as far into that as you want to get like the more detailed hobby items.
Okay, so I kind of have to, and I don't know if you're in a great place to answer this or not, but recently Wizards of the Coast has had some, shall we say, hiccups with their presentation of product and with their business decisions as a whole. Have you seen any effect on like the D&D product line versus, say, Pathfinder or the indie RPGs or any, have you seen people moving away, or is it just what I kind of believe it's just this little high wave in a group of waves that will just go by?
It's a hard topic because I think we are all fans of hobby gaming and community, and that leads to community. and I think there was a lot of trust that was lost from Wizards of the Coast. So I mean, they're still the big dog when people think of role playing. The general public thinks D&D. Those are equal terms in a lot of aspects. So I think I can't say D&D still sells great for us. Dice still sell great for us, and we have a lot of business and we have a lot of players coming in. I do see a lot of growth, though. I don't know if I've seen a decline in necessarily D&D products, but I've seen a growth in other products. I think is more what I've seen, and I think a lot of people are. Well, let's check out this other stuff.
Yeah,
we're hearing all this stuff, and we're seeing how maybe they're not the best for the community growth, and so let's check out these smaller publishers and these other systems that exist. And there is not a short supply of other systems out there.
No,
oh no,
And,
good God,
oh no.
but I think it's opened people's eyes to that being an option, and maybe D&D not being so equals to role playing, and so I think it's opened people's eyes and allowed them to explore a lot of other options and a lot of great options.
Nice.
So just to be clear for all of our listeners, could you tell them where your locations are in Albuquerque?
Yeah, so our original location is west side of Albuquerque, almost to Rio Rancho. It is McMahon and Unser are kind of the main cross streets. It is a smaller of the stores, a little bit more cozy, I think. Our new store opened up kind of northeast Albuquerque, but a little bit more central, a lot easier for a lot of people to get to. On Wyoming and Manal is that cross streets there. But both stores kind of operate the same way, where we provide a game library, we provide retail, we provide delivery. We have customers that love our pizza so much they haven't even stepped foot in the store before, and they just do deliveries. But we're able to again cater to any of those communities. So, but yeah, now we are able to support anywhere in Albuquerque.
Which leads to my one big complaint is that dice rolls aren't available at both stores. Have you ever had the dice rolls?
Yeah.
Oh, God, they're so good.
So this is my way to make sure Bill comes to both stores.
Exactly.
Is exclusive location exclusive menu items.
It's working. It's working. Oh, Lord.
Well, I think it's funny because Bill and I can tell you, I don't know how many times we both just somehow end up at the Wyoming location at the exact same time.
Yep.
It's almost uncanny, right? Like we just have some sort of connection.
Right.
Just like, oh yeah, no, I was going to come buy $400 worth of miniatures today too. You know,
It's so odd. It is strange how you meet. You know, obviously we have a small community, but it's weird how a place like yours acts like a hub for so many people, like-minded people, and they're actually comfortable environments to be in. So I love that. Kind of getting off the miniatures games a little bit onto box games. When you decide on what games to play, does Board Game Geek play a factor in that, the hotness list?
It doesn't anymore for me. I think BGG as a whole, as me as a consumer and a lover of board games, I love it. I love BGG. I love it as a use, but I think it is really for the people that are deep into the hobby. And so our method is really more, so again, bringing back that engineering mindset and how we use those skills to run our business is really just a data-driven mindset. So we pull, luckily I have an awesome POS system, and I can pull data from there very easily, and I can look at top categories, top publishers. And so every month we do a deep pool of data, and we pull everything that we're selling and kind of what's popular, and then we increase stock in those areas. It's very interesting to see the two differences at the two stores too, because our original store, we one of our top lines is family games. So very light, very, very easy. Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, if you haven't played that one, is that one is a top seller at that store. And our new store, we've been able to kind of lean into the miniature gaming a little bit more, and that tends to be our leading category so far.
Good. It's probably Josh and I that did that.
You were helping.
Yeah, helping.
But I mean, we have a great community, and like I said, we have a great community in all our categories, and so we grow them as they're supporting us. So everything's kind of getting that growth, and it's awesome to see the growth in all of them.
Rising tide lifts all ships. Gotta love it. This is going to be, this is one of those weird open-ended psychology questions, and feel free to shy away if you don't want to. But do you have any advice for anybody that wants to start doing what you do and run a game store adjacent? I know some people that wanted to start carrying consoles, computers, and games. And I'm like, wow, you are going to die. But I mean, do you have any advice for somebody that wants to get into this sort of cross-pollinated storefront idea?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So I think what you just said in the last sentence of rising tides kind of encompasses my aspect of the business. But I think if someone's interested in it and wants to do it, I think they should look into it. I do think there's a lot of work beforehand that has to come into place. I mean, I'm part of so many resources. I host what we call a mastermind call with Board Game Cafe owners. So every 2 weeks we meet up and we share experiences and share issues, and we try to solve each other's problems. And it's a really cool community. So I think old school mentality, and you could even say that my parents were in this like group, was these are my processes, my recipes, my everything, and I don't want to share because that gives someone else an advantage over me. And I think we live in a world where that can't happen anymore, and to create the best places. And I think there are a lot of resources. So for someone who wants to open a store, do your research. I would say do it. Like, obviously I went from engineering to opening like my dream. And so I would never tell someone not to do it, but I do think there is a lot of research that has to go into building a business plan. There's a lot of books. So for games specifically, Friendly Local Game Store by Gary Ray, I believe is his name. But he does a book on like the basics of opening game stores. There's a lot of Facebook resources out there. So Opening a Tabletop Game Store is a Facebook group that I'm part of where people ask questions. Hey, how did you guys do this? How did you do that? And like, and people are very open on there to share kind of how they run their stores. And so my advice is do it, go into it, but go into it knowing, work for a game store, get a lot of that as much information as you can before you do. And be ready for a lifestyle change for a while. For the first 6 months of this new opening of the store, me and my wife did not get a paycheck. So being able to live, like, be prepared to make big changes in your life because something might not be as hot of a salary as you thought, or lease might be a little more than you thought, or whatever the challenge is. But if you have any listeners who are looking to open stuff, I am a resource. They can get a hold of me.
Nice.
And I will gladly have a phone call with them or email conversations. And I love that stuff. I think growing the hobby and making better game stores and better board game cafes. And like you said, I mean, what else can we make stuff interesting and introduce people to the gaming hobby? I think is an awesome future for stores, and not just, hey, I don't just have a game store. I have something else.
So kind of on that note, what is your internet and social media presence? How can folks interface with you online?
For direct contact, they can just email me, vic@slicindicepizzeria.com. That's the most direct to get to me for our store and for that. So we're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are our main three. We are either Slice and Dice Pizzeria or Slice and Dice Pizzeria ABQ. But if you type in Slice and Dice Pizza, we should be one of the top to pop up on any of those platforms.
Nice.
And tell us a little bit about your website.
Yeah, slicindicepizzeria.com is our website. We've grown that to have kind of all aspects of the business. So it shows our events that we're having. It shows our you can order our pizza, you can order delivery, you can see the games that we have in stock, all that sort of stuff.
So you're saying that if someone wants to know if you have something in stock, they can just look online.
It's perfect.
That's crazy. That's like
Who would have thought?
Amazon.
No, I've used that quite a bit. It was like, is this in yet? Is this in yet? Still called to confirm, but someone's always friendly to answer the phone. The website says this. Is that true? Yes.
All right. So as we wrap up, I'm just going to throw it over to you. Do you have anything you want to talk about or pitch or anything you want to talk about?
No, I appreciate you guys bringing me in. I love to talk shop and I love, like I said, growing the hobby. I think you guys are doing an excellent job in keeping people interested and giving someone content to listen to. I tend to listen to podcasts on my way to work, so without that, I think my drives would be very boring. And so I appreciate you guys doing the hard work and the editing and all that stuff to make those trips more pleasurable. But as far as the business, I mean, check us out. It's a great community hub, and it's if you like beer, come have beer. If you like pizza, come have pizza. If you like games, or any one of the mixture of those.
Pizza, beer, and games. I mean,
it's just nuts.
No self-respecting gamer wouldn't want that.
It's nirvana. I mean, I want to open one too, but yeah, I know I would fail miserably.
I could just drive down the street right to Vic's.
Exactly. I don't need to open one. So, well, cool. I appreciate your coming out. I really do. I know you got such a busy schedule, and taking time out on a Sunday is probably, this is your first day off in how long?
First day off in 14 days.
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Thank you. I get to hang out with you, lovely, lovely gentlemen.
I appreciate you taking the time to do it. Really do.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Vic.
So, and we'll put all your contact info in the show notes.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. So, want to throw a big thanks to Vic for taking the time out of his day to do that for us.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Share his thoughts and his ideas and challenges, really. So now we have to move on to, what do you want to do first? Do you want to do girls or do you want to do AoS 4?
I always want to do girls, Bill, but let's talk 40K first. Let's have a little fun and get a little salt out there.
Yeah, why not? Oh my God. So female custodes are out. They're in the wild. They're there. And just the outcry on both sides, positive and negative, has just been amazing.
Yes.
It's crazy to see how people come down on what side of the fence they come down on. I think we both agree that I'm in the camp of, I don't give a damn. I honestly don't. Custodes have always been a different thing from Space Marines.
Yes.
They are created differently. And at no point, I know one of the folks over at the store, did some deep research and has found that throughout almost all the lore, the custodes are referred to as they or them.
Yep.
And never by actual, any sort of pronoun that might give away what they are. And the only time that you know what a custodes is in certain books, like in the Garrow book, that guy's obviously male. And, in these latest books, the guy that's traveling around with Gilliman is a guy. It's no big deal. But it's never been established that there are no female custodes. And so for them to just say the only reason that we didn't have females at the beginning was the models were already done when they gave it to us to write the lore.
Yeah.
So that's how the lore was written. That was the only thing. So yeah, no, there's tons of female custodes. And you're just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I am stoked. As we were talking about before we started recording in, I definitely want to make a Gal Stodes army, and it's going to be using the Stormcast models. I mean, they're so close, right? I mean, in terms of height, I think that they're approximately the same height.
Yeah, could be.
And you have all those beautiful like female sculpts in the Stormcast line, the heads without the helmets on.
Yep.
Right? That it would just be so easy to do a few conversions, and there you go. Gal Stodes all the way.
It's so cool.
I'll make a Trajana Valoris.
Love it.
It's so easy to do, you know? And really, I think that it jives, particularly if you think of how close the Stormcast look to Custodes.
Yeah.
That it just visually, right, makes sense. There's a similar design space there. Similar, not the same. Particularly if you look to the Fat Cast, right? Very similar. Lots of lion iconography.
Yep.
Right? Very much in line with the Custodes. You've got a lot of the bird iconography in some of the different chambers. So if you're looking to troll and get your girl Stodes going on, then look to the Stormcast range. But I mean, it's just so interesting that, because I'll see the comment threads and stuff. Like one of the most divisive issues for some people, right, is that no, there can't be female anything other than Sisters of Battle in 40K.
Why?
And then it turns into this whole like political argument that everyone's making. So one person's like, people just like, this is what capitalism does to things, guys, because now they want to sell these models. And someone's like, it's not capitalism, it's socialism. And
Oh,
okay. Like, you just see some crazy, like, bent rants that people go on, right? To try and hold fast to their point of view that Warhammer 40K, Space Marines, Custodes, or anything else can't have women, right, in them, right? It's, the He-Man Woman Haters Club, right?
And it just boggles my mind that it could even begin to matter to anyone if they exist or not.
Yeah.
And how does it materially affect you? I can understand that you might have some lore issues here and there. Okay, fine. Everyone has an opinion and some are just wrong. Mm-hmm. But if all of a sudden they came out, and they said, here's these female Space Marines, and they actually have one more point of toughness, and they have one more attack, and they have one more wound, and they're just flat out better. Yes, I'm going to be angry as all get out, because that's just literally going for sales. Or if they come out and they have 1 point less toughness and one less attack, now you're just throwing the stereotype into the wind and seeing where it sticks. That's just wrong. If I buy a box of Space Marine intercessors tomorrow and there's some female intercessors, I literally am not going to notice the difference, other than might take a minuscule more paint because of the bumps. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Depends on what their armor looks like. And to be truthful, in Space Marine armor, there really shouldn't be any outward change to them.
No.
To call them female. Just throw some female heads in there and you're done.
Yeah. I mean, the uniformity of Space Marine armor, right? You wouldn't be able to tell.
Mm-mm.
You would not be able to tell.
No, and the way it would be produced, they would not produce a female version. You just have to fit inside.
Yeah.
And I don't honestly see how that could become an issue. So literally, it cannot matter in the least if it's a female inside the Custody suit or if it's a female inside the Intercessor suit. I can't see how someone could be that upset about it when it simply does not affect your life in one infinitesimal way. Why? Why are you angry? I don't know.
I mean, it's so much bandwagoning. A lot of it has to do with, I'm just going to say, political stuff that people get involved in. Maybe some dudes are just flat out sexist, or maybe there are people who are like such hardcore lore fanatics that they think that it is unjustified by lore, right? They're also hardcore lore fanatics who are like, no, this could happen. It's perfectly fine, right, within the context of the lore. And I really kind of want to juxtapose AoS and 40K communities, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because when you look to, again, I think Stormcast is a good measure for this, right?
Yes.
Like, so much of the primary Stormcasts that were released, no, it's all like sort of male sculpts, right? I think Neve Black Talon was the first female sculpt.
I think she was close to it,
for Stormcast. It wasn't until the Sequitors and all those hit that they truly had unique, identifiable female sculpts. And when those came out, no one said a damn thing, right?
It didn't matter.
It didn't matter. In fact, most people were like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so this does answer it, because
there's more alternate heads. Yay.
I mean, the story of like, there were great heroes that Sigmar, pulled from the underworld, in order to reforge them so he can defeat chaos and death and all those things. You know what? Guess what? Women can be heroes too.
Yeah. It's just not that. It's not that strange.
Yeah.
And I think even in the very original set of books that came out with AoS, I believe there was references even back then that some of the Stormcast were female underneath the armor. Mm-hmm. It just didn't show. But I think one of them was referred to by a very definitely female name. Mm-hmm. I don't want to swear to that because it's been a while. But I'll tell you, in my own research, like I said last time, I looked through that whole thing where they put out the process about making the new Primaris and the organs and the glands that have to be injected and implanted and surgically inserted and all that stuff. And there was nothing there that was tied to the male physiology.
No.
Nothing. So to say that it's physically not possible is a lie.
Yeah.
And that's just, and so what if it's woke? Who gives a crap? And from a very marketing point of view, if you get more customers to buy product because now you have a female alternative, okay, again, how does it hurt me? GW's never said that you have to switch your Blood Angels now have to be all female.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to say that. I guarantee you it's not going to happen. Now, they may come out with a new chapter or two that are distinctly just all female. Okay, fine. I probably will pick them up because that would be fun. But they have not said that this is a market change to the game and they are going to act differently. No, they have the Custodes stat line. And whether you call it her or him or they, what does it matter?
Yeah, it's sort of being bothered by a non-issue. To put that much energy into disdain, right, for a company, or to jump on these bandwagons of people being like, oh my God, this is materially changing, not just the lore, but like it's a threat to my own like gender identity. I mean, I don't know what it is, right? Like, why are you so scared? Again, it's not like GW is mandating that you go in and buy whole new sculpts, right, for your army.
Yeah.
It's no, these have always been there, guys. It's just that we just didn't produce new models, right? Because the Custodes have like what, 4 boxes?
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly. It's like, ooh, God, yeah. Come on, people.
From like a money standpoint, right? It wouldn't make sense at that point, right? To just like, okay, well, I know we just released these well sculpted miniatures, right? But let's go back and add a few that have like female looking heads.
Yeah.
Right? Because the armor's not going to change.
Not a bit.
It wouldn't make sense to make the armor change, particularly with how large Custodes are, unless, physiologically the women grew in the same capacity, right? But there's nothing, again, as you said, like with the Primaris stuff, right, that shows that if you don't have something dangling between your legs, you can't be a Primaris.
Right.
I mean, we have to look at, and we were talking about this before we recorded, but Belisarius Call, in his book, he has this custom Space Marine chapter that is his like bodyguard contingent that he has managed to fuse with, I believe, Gene Stealer Cult DNA, right? So they have enhanced psychic powers. So it'd be, if we're looking at lore, saying that like, oh, no. Yeah, sure, you could have like a dude fuse with like crazy extraterrestrial bug DNA and still be a Space Marine. But if it was a woman who then became a Space Marine, that can't happen.
No.
Nothing whatsoever. This is science fiction. It might as well be magic. Like, just sit here and be like, no, the science says the science doesn't say crap.
The science doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, whatever you think the process may be, what could happen? It could be like, oh, even if let's assume that originally it was true that according to the lore, female cannot become Space Marines. Guess what? It's sci-fi. The science advanced.
Yeah.
The need for Space Marines is so great that we have advanced the science in order to allow women to become Space Marines. Yeah.
If it's one less step to take out a certain chromosome, okay, that means we can get this done 20 minutes faster. Let's do that. I don't care.
Well, I think Space King did a good job kind of making fun of that,
Yeah,
right? Where they're just like throwing it's like female children into the lava. But even then, they capture like this like 10-year-old boy, and they shoot a couple glands into his body, and he just like turns into this like rage machine, giant freaking Space Marine, right? It's hilarious to think that it's the sci-fi couldn't go there, And if you're such a purist to that, and you haven't been aware that things have progressed throughout books, right? Things change, evolve, get better, and at least you hope they do.
Yeah.
Right? But like, what are you going to do then? Like, oh no, I can't do this now. What was Kai saying? It's like, well, it's transhuman physiology.
Transhuman physiology. So you're going to go back to your trainees?
Yeah.
So
you're going to play your transhumans now.
Your regular Space Marines?
And they're like, what?
Trans?
What? No, it's okay. You can go play your orcs because, oh, wait, no. They're just made of fungus and they have no...
They're asexual.
They're asexual. Crap.
Damn it. All right,
Well, you can go play demons. Well, actually, no. There's female demons.
Yeah.
Or female-looking demons. That doesn't
Lots
work.
of them.
Well, if you play Eldar,
Yeah, no. Well, shit. Our options are narrowing. Tyranids. Oh, yeah. They don't actually have that delineation at all.
I know. They're like bugs, guys.
Yeah, bugs.
They're like bugs, except the Norn stuff kind of gets there, I guess. But
Yeah.
just come on, get over it.
Yeah, it's not something to worry about. And again, it's one of those things. Ask yourself the question, does it materially affect my life? No. Then I can accept it because it doesn't matter to me. And I do not have to deal with it in any way, shape, or form. So,
I mean, I just feel like I'm obligated to make my girl stoties now.
Me too.
And just play them at every single tournament I can. Because, I think it's time for y'all to see them.
Embrace it. It's fun. So let's move on to the good stuff. Let's go on to AoS 4.0.
All right. This will be pretty fun.
What are you thinking about the teasers, the combat and the magic and the, oh my God.
We talked about last time, but like the death of safe stacking is amazing.
Yeah.
I am so stoked for that. I hated that, but it's also like Ren's gone down a bit. Basic Stormcast troop, those liberators, if what they're saying is true, are going to be pretty strong. It's going to be an elite army as it has been, but like they've been elite in the sense you don't get that many models, but you also don't do that much on the table.
Right.
But I think that they're getting to a place where they're going to be strong. Basic Liberator troops being able to have rend and crit mortals, like, hello.
Yeah.
I am here for it. The magic, I really didn't expect them to do it, but I thought it was super cool that your wizard level is the max number of spells that you can either cast or unbind
or banish.
Yeah.
I love the way they've worked all that together now, because now you're going to have some very distinct possibilities inside. I do like the idea that at list building, you pick your lores.
Yeah.
And then everybody uses that. Mm-hmm. And that, I like that a lot. Instead of going, well, does that shaman have the spell? No, it's the one on the other side of the table. Damn it. Mm-hmm. No, I hated that, except I didn't know I hated it until I knew I hated it.
Yeah.
So now it just seems so much more flexible and easier to track. And the idea that, it's, I think they came flat out and said there's going to be some spells that are listed as unlimited. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to cast those more than once, but not from the same caster.
Yep.
So, basically Mystic Shield is going to still probably be out there, and, Smite is probably going to be out there. But, it looks like it's going to be it's really going to enhance magic-based armies, but it's not going to, I don't think, inhibit the ones that have never been really all that. In fact, it will probably help the smaller caster armies because of the flexibility it's going to allow now.
Well, the fact that you have to think about what you are devoting your, essentially like wizard level to, right? Because like, let's say you're a wizard 3, right? It doesn't mean that like, I can totally blast out 3 spells and then unbind 3 spells. Like, no, you need to actually budget what you're going to do. And so what I think it does is, while it creates a more tactical, more strategic play in terms of magic, it also, I think, will inhibit spell doms from just running over the meta on certain things, particularly because everyone was like, oh my God, did you see that command ability where you can, cast a spell in your opponent's hero phase? I'm like, that's strong, but I like that they're talking, we put limiters on these things, and the fact that it's like, well, it's going to eat up your wizard level. So what are you going to do? Are you going to save that in case you need to unbind from the person across the table, or what's going on?
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. And interesting too, that like, I love how on the War Scrolls, they've got the casting value there, right? It's like the Nagash one, it says 7.
Yeah.
And then it tells you like what you need to roll. This is so cool, in order to get it. And it's so clear. It's so precise. There's not any question about what you need to do in this action. Yeah. And I think it's going to make spellcasting more interesting in terms of strategic play, but not as taxing if you're not as good a wizard as the other person.
Yes. And you're going to be able to, it's going to be a lot more approachable for casuals and still have all that flexibility for the high competitive players to maximize what they can and cannot do. And striking that balance is going to be huge, especially when you look at the different combat system changes and how, you know, charges are still charges, but the charge is an ability. And here it is. It's succinct. It's easy to figure out, and it's going to be easier to defend against, honestly, you know, or to think about how you're going to receive the enemy's charge, because you know at times, you know, there's always that threat of the double turn, and you have to be somewhat aware of the fact that what happens if this unit gets charged? What if these guys get charged? What am I going to do? Well, now you can kind of think it through without having to sit there and go, oh, I didn't consider every possibility. Yeah. No, it's pretty cut and dried now.
Yeah. Phasing everything the way it is, including command abilities that are reactions. People are like likening it to like the stack in Magic and stuff like that. I don't think it's quite that advanced, but it certainly creates so much more strategic play and makes your command points really important. What I love too is how they talk about like there's catch-up mechanics. There's, you know, like if you take the double turn, you can't get your battle tactic. Right. But then if, you know, at the beginning of a battle round, if you're lower on victory points than your opponent, you get additional command points. And so there's a lot of interaction, or I should say consequential play, you know, where it's not just someone's going to run away with the game because they literally inject a way for the opponent who's the underdog to come back, because some of those command abilities are insane. The counter charge that everyone has access to blows my mind.
That is so cool.
And then, oh my God, what is the one at the end of the movement phase where you can before you be like move D6 away? You could just do that now without it being a reaction to a certain range. So there's so much more strategic, subtle play in there. And I've also been really impressed with the USRs. Because I feel like they're doing what USRs should be doing, which is helping you have a simplified understanding of what certain things do as like shorthand, right? Because
and making it the same regardless of the verbiage. You know, what is this ability called? Well, in this army, it's called this and this and this. It's the same effect. God dang it. Make it one time. That way you can make the changes to it one time. It's just, I love where they're going with this. This really is a revamp from the ground up. And just the fluidity of it, getting rid of start of the turn, end of the turn, getting rid of all that phasing junk in favor of, okay, we are now in the combat phase. I'm going to do my pre-combat actions, then you do your pre-combat actions, then we fight. Then we just fight. And by God, if you get the strike first, okay, well, you know, boom, there you go. I think the games are going to flow a lot better. What I'm seriously looking forward to is watching the top players make lists that are designed and then play in a way that's designed for them to be behind for the first several turns. So that they can bank command points for when it really gets nuts. And then when you have two top players, you know, when you see table number 1 at LVO, and you're going to be watching two top players trying to lose turn 1, literally working towards forcing the other guy to kill a unit or two so that they can lose some victory points. So that they can be behind. And it's just, I mean, I know it sounds silly that they're going to be looking to lose the first couple of turns, but obviously with the big picture in mind of coming back to make that inroad, to use those resources that they have now amassed to the fullest advantage, and seeing how that plays out is going to be, it's going to be a joy to watch. You know, these top players maneuver the system into what they need it to be to win. And, you know, more power to them, and GW, don't put in changes that prevent that. Let these top players invent ways of playing that are crazy cool. And the more I see about this game, the more I want it to be July. You know, it's oh God, give me that rule book. Let us have these toys. And, just like we said before, yeah, they're going to come out with the indexes for all the forces, and some of them are going to be bent and broken. There's going to be an Eldar out there. There's going to be a Gloomspite out there. Let us get to doing this stuff. Let us get to playing with these rules.
Yeah.
Quit drip feeding.
Yeah.
Damn it, give it to us now. It's so good. So good looking.
It is. I'm excited for the ground up rework to really go that far into and be like, we need to change some significant things here. Now, of course, it's not changing everything, but everything looks so streamlined.
Yeah.
The modularity aspect of the game,
Yep.
right? Being able to say, okay, well, we're not going to use magic or prayers, right? We're just going to use straight combat. Changing some of the verbiage too to like heal being a simple term to use, right?
Yes.
Heal 1, heal D3,
Yes.
right? All those things, beautiful changes, right? Changing it from wounds to health was interesting, but like that does differentiate it from 40K,
Sure.
right? And then seeing like a war scroll be so easy to read.
Yeah.
Sometimes things would get so complicated before, like, well, I mean, you can have, because they were trying to do a little WYSIWYG stuff,
Yep.
where they're like, well, you can have this weapon and this combination and this and this and this. It's simple now. Liberators. They either hit with one type of hammer or the other type of hammer.
That's it.
And that's it.
Yep.
And pose them however you want.
And yeah, the Croxagore, I just love the example they used. The example they used of the Croxagore, it's like 1 in 3 has the big meteor hammer. Everybody else does. So just grab your 12 dice and roll and just go to town.
Mm-hmm.
And by simplifying combat, you're going to speed up the game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, by getting rid of all the save stacking and all the silliness that goes with that, combat is going to be straightforward, simple, still fun. I don't see that they've taken any of the interest out of it, especially now with the special rules. Like, they demonstrated the anti-infantry rule where, here's your rend and here's your ability to just go through screens really quickly because that's your job. Or the other one that they had out there was the anti-charge, the ones that had the longer ranged weapons, and completely getting rid of weapon ranges is bonkers. I never would have thought of that as a solution to the issue, when in fact that's the solution to the issue. Is you give certain weapon types those abilities, and that's it. You don't have to sit there and go, well, he can fight at 3 inches and it makes coherency become a pain in the butt. Now coherency is just brain dead simple. Lowering it to a 1/2 inch, interesting. And of course 7 or more has to be within 2. So that's debatable. But again, you've just simplified and streamlined everything. Basically, if something's supposed to go in 2 ranks, it's going to have to go in 2 ranks. Just get over it. But you're still going to fight.
Yeah. It simplifies the pile-in.
Yeah.
Because that was always the thing when you're dealing with those tiny little measurements. I mean, I've had games where it's literally, I have to measure just each little guy to make sure they're just inside, just enough so I can get that second row in. Now it's, don't even think about that. Just make sure they're on coherency, pile in, do your stuff.
Push all your stuff in there and go. Yeah.
And there's still tactical play for those things. But I'm just saying that, like, it's not so much about, I think the pile-in phase and not being so much about how close is my 25 mil to the base of the other one will simplify a lot, because those are mainly the ones that cause issues, right?
Yeah.
Anything that's a horde unit, 20 plus models that you're needing to push in, and having to individually measure each one because you have that persnickety opponent who's like, no, that one's like 1.1 inches, and you're like, oh my god, are we doing this?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. Is it didn't really separate good players from bad players. What it did was it just made it take longer on an average than it needed to. And it wasn't always a skill issue, as a once you've been burned once, to never do that again.
Yeah.
And you will then just sit there, and during your movement, during your charge, you will take all the time it takes to get them perfectly aligned so that everybody got their strikes in. And now you don't even have to think about it. Now you just go let's play the game. And by the rules, these guys swing.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks. Bye. And yeah, I like that. Anything you do like that eliminates the tryhards from the competitive people. And, again, the competitive guys are going to figure it out, lickety split, and they're never going to get it wrong. And you can count on that. The only ones that ever really called you out on that were the tryhards.
Oh, yeah.
Were the ones that, here's the 3-2 guy who thinks he's a 5-0 guy. He's not. But, he believes that those two were dice rolls, and the fact that the other guy cheated and how he positioned his guy. No, that's not what happened. You lost.
Yeah.
So,
the one guy he had like 3 models that were 1.2 inches out, but he wouldn't believe me, and he still rolled the dice, and that's why I lost.
Yeah.
Type mentality.
Yeah.
And that's annoying, right? But I mean, it just simplifies it. I mean, but I would make sure, just approximately speaking, like, can you agree that all these are within 1 inch, right? Type thing. But now it takes that out. It simplifies it. It boils it down. I will just a little side note on Croxicores. I am so glad that they are now worth their sculpts.
Good, yes.
Because they were all right at best.
In
the current edition. But now they have a very, very clear role in the army, which is clear that screen.
You betcha.
And so it's just that easy to see now.
Yes.
Right? The fact that they already hit so strong, but if you're against infantry, additional rend and damage. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes all the sense in the world. And now a person like me that's not good at gleaning what something does from all the wall of text that it has, now it's pretty upfront on the card, and it's pretty much in your face. This is a screen buster. This is a screen. This is, oh my God, this is strong. And it's going to take away a lot of that, the barrier between, I don't want to say, play level, but your level of play. It's going to even that out quite a bit. And a casual player is going to be able to play very fun casual games where the ultra competitive, and I'm talking about that top 1%, they're going to be able to maximize the efficiency of every unit under their control. Yeah. And it's going to show. I guarantee you we're going to see the same names at the top because they get it. They will get it right away. But I also think you're going to see a lot more competitive, contested pickup games, regular old pickup games. And, one thing I hate is, like I've said with the Daughters of Cain, at the bottom of turn 2 whether or not you're going to win or lose. It's very obvious. If you're in the right positions and you've got your stuff lined up, chances are you're going to be able to get in there and get the hits and do what you have to do to win the game. If you're not in position, or if you've taken too much upfront damage, it's just going to be 2 more turns of slogging through knowing that you're going to lose and why play. And I love the fact that they're removing that aspect from the game. Yeah. They're taking that away. Yay. Keep going, GW. Just give it to us now. Give it to me now.
Yeah. I think, at least my projects and stuff, I'm okay with it being July, but I think it'd be so fun to play with the rules now. But I mean, they're giving us enough that we can fully comprehend what we're going to be doing. Yeah. And I think that with these releases, I truly feel like when the full rules are out for everyone, that if you've been keeping up with everything, you're going to pick it up that much faster. Yeah. Because they've been quite thoroughly explaining some things. Yeah. I mean, I know there was a whole kerfuffle with the models being, removed from the different lines, or entire lines being removed, right? A lot of vitriol on that. Yeah. And there could have been some better explanations for things on some things, like what's getting a resculpt and what's not. But I mean, in terms of the rest of the AoS content they're putting out, I have heard nothing but people saying this is amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Especially even when you see some of the very negative focused places talking about how cool it looks. Yeah. And that's when you just go, maybe they're onto something here. I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be a good time. I really think they're nailing it. And, I've said it before. If they go down the same road they went with 10th, which 10th has been, the goal has always been to not let power creep ruin the game right away, like they've done in every edition up till now. They've nailed it with 10th. And if they can do the same thing with AoS, dear God, they might as well just start printing the money. It's just, you're going to see such an upswing in play of both systems Love it. All right. Shall we end it there? Because it's almost time for After Dark.
Oh, yeah.
Or no. Yeah, no, we're done. We did girls. We did 4.
Phrasing.
Wow, I hadn't thought of that one. Okay. My bad.
Yeah, so talking about the fictional girl studies, AoS 4, and then, of course, big shout out to Vic for joining us.
Yep.
I think it's a pretty fun episode overall. Definitely look at Slice and Dice Pizzeria. If you are somehow coming through Albuquerque, maybe you've got a few hours of a layover on a trip or something, catch a cab over to Slice and Dice and back. I mean, you will not be disappointed. If you are local, you better be going there.
That's right. Yeah.
If you're not going there, I will find you.
Yes.
And drive you to Slice and Dice Pizzeria.
We have a particular set of skills, and we have cars.
Yeah. I know how to press the gas and the brake in the right order and turn the wheel appropriately. So it was a fun one, folks. So hope you enjoyed it. Look up Slice and Dice Pizzeria. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and now you've heard even more about it. So fall in love with it as we have. But for the rest of you who are staying, we'll see you after dark.
The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast itself is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.